The Legend of Zelda is one of the most iconic video game franchises of all time. From the moment it debuted on Japan's Famicom in 1986, the series has offered epic adventures with an unparalleled scope. In the years since, it's only grown bigger and far more complicated, with multiple timelines and universes, stories told out of chronological order, and, in one case, an entire game that was eventually revealed to be a dream of a giant fish. Needless to say, there's a whole lot going on in these games that goes far beyond swinging the Master Sword and bombing walls, and some of it might have gone way over your head the first time you played the game. From a dodgy economy to an unexpected fetish, here's the stuff in The Legend of Zelda that you only notice as an adult. Tomb Raider. The usual path through a Zelda game takes you through a series of dungeons, each containing a particular weapon or item that you use to advance to the next dungeon. But here's the thing. In some cases, they're not just dungeons, they're temples. In other words, Link is a guy who wanders into an ancient holy site, smashes whatever he can, and promptly steals everything that isn't nailed down on his way to murdering whatever unique and endangered creature calls this place its home. And that's the best case scenario. At worst, he's also going to flood the place, destroy huge chunks of the walls, and otherwise desecrate the entire temple. Link is a straight-up grave robber, plain and simple. Fallout with pointier ears. In 2017, Link's first outing on the Nintendo Switch gave him a huge, sprawling world to explore where the good guys had already lost. It's definitely a masterpiece. But if Breath of the Wild felt a little familiar to adult gamers, there's a good reason for that. It's basically just Fallout with swords. Once you start noticing them, the similarities keep adding up. Both games are set decades after an apocalyptic cataclysm that left the world littered with advanced but broken down technology that very few people understand. Like Fallout 4, Breath of the Wild involves the player character coming out of a cryogenic sleep. And like Fallout 3 and New Vegas, weapons degrade and break as you use them, leaving you to scrounge for new ones. Even the smaller elements like crafting, fast travel, and having a house to decorate feel lifted from Fallout. But that's not actually a bad thing. Breath of the Wild takes the elements that made the Fallout games great, and in a lot of cases, it arguably does them even better, making for an incredible new experience. Like the old saying goes, if you're going to steal, steal from the best. The Great Fairies. The Zelda games have always been a little weird about the Great Fairies, going all the way back to the angular, mostly naked versions that showed up in Ocarina of Time. With Breath of the Wild, though, they went all in. It's not the sort of thing you'd notice as a kid, and in fact, the sight of Link recoiling from the over-the-top smooches of a giant woman would possibly seem like hilarious slapstick more than anything else. If, however, you're playing that game as an adult, you know exactly what's going on. The giggles and moaning, Link's fruitless struggles against their inescapable but loving hugs, and the fact that they leave him spent and exhausted at the end of your transaction? Yeah, we know what's up. Not that we're judging. Hyrule's nonsense economy. Mario had his coins and Simon Belmont had moneybags, but Zelda was one of the first major video game franchises to introduce a fully functional economy. From the very first game, the shiny, irresistibly collectible rupees weren't just there for bonus points, you could use them to buy weapons and power-ups. But nobody at Nintendo ever bothered to sit down and make the economy make sense. It's pretty weird that most Hylians keep their money in ceramic pots that they leave unattended. If a heavily armed child in a green miniskirt rolled into our homes, shattered those jars by throwing them against the wall, scooped up the change and left, we'd probably be a little upset about it. Not so for the people of Hyrule, who take this little bit of grand larceny in stride. Maybe they're comforted by the fact that you can find rupees pretty much everywhere. They even pop out of the ground when you cut grass. A currency so common is effectively worthless. Forget about Ganon, the real danger to Hyrule is that they're about 3 weeks away from complete economic collapse. Who's really the bad guy? Link isn't just a hero, he's the hero of Hyrule, the hero of time, the hero of legend, and so on. Or is he? Most of that heroic reputation comes from the way he defeats Ganondorf and saves Princess Zelda, which is all the explanation you need as a kid. When you've grown up and read any history book ever, you hopefully realize that propping up an absolute monarchy isn't always the best course of action. At best, Link's maintaining the status quo, and that includes a kingdom where non-Hylian races like the Zora and the Gorons are segregated, maybe even confined to their own kingdoms. Ganondorf, on the other hand, he was born to a tribe of people who wandered the desert, who clawed his way up from nothing, seized a third of an all-powerful magical force, and tried to overthrow a supposedly benevolent dictatorship. Face it, folks, that's basically Luke Skywalker, right down to the desert.